Imagine waking up in a nursing home, abandoned by your family with no explanation. No goodbyes. No warning. Just silence. That's exactly what happened to me. But what came next? A moment so unexpected, it shattered my heart wide open. This is a story about betrayal, regret, and the fragile hope of forgiveness. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on notifications. Stories like this one, they're why we do what we do, and your support helps us tell more of them. The day they left me, the last thing my son, Daniel, said to me was, "We'll be back soon, Mom." 6 months ago. 6 months of silence. 6 months of staring at the same beige walls, the same flickering fluorescent light in the hallway, the same empty chair where my family should have been. The nurses avoid my questions now. At first, they'd smile and say, "I'm sure they're just busy, Evelyn." But after the third month, their eyes would dart away, their voices dropping to murmurs. Even the other residents whisper when they think I can't hear. Poor Mrs. Carter. Not a single visitor. I used to be someone. A teacher. A mother. A woman who hosted Thanksgiving dinners with a table so full, we had to borrow chairs from the neighbors. Now I'm just another forgotten name on a room assignment sheet at Maplewood Care Facility. The worst part isn't the loneliness. It's the not knowing. Did I do something wrong? Was it the argument with Rebecca all those years ago, the one that ended with her slamming the door and never coming back? Or was it something else, something quieter, something I didn't even notice slipping away until it was too late? I replay that last day like a broken record. Daniel had helped me pack my things, his voice steady, his hands efficient. "It's just temporary, Mom, until your knee gets better." He'd even kissed my forehead before he left, the way he used to when he was a little boy, and I'd tucked him into bed. But then nothing. No calls. No letters. Just silence. This morning, like every morning, I wake up before dawn. The ache in my joints is worse when it's cold, and the heating in this place is about as reliable as a promise made in passing. I reach for the framed photo on my nightstand, the last family picture we ever took back when my husband, Henry, was still alive. Daniel's grinning, his arm around Rebecca, who's staring at the camera like she'd rather be anywhere else. I trace my finger over her face. She was always the stubborn one. Like me. Breakfast is the usual. Rubbery scrambled eggs, toast that could double as cardboard, and weak coffee that smells like regret. I sit at my usual table by the window, the one with the view of the parking lot. Not that I'm watching for anyone. Not anymore. But then, halfway through forcing down another bite, I hear it. "Mrs. Carter?" It's Marisol, one of the younger nurses. She's holding a stack of files, her brow furrowed. I thought you should know." She glances over her shoulder before leaning in, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your son, he signed some paperwork when you were admitted. Power of attorney, medical decisions." She hesitates. "He told the staff not to contact you directly about anything financial. Said it would stress you out." My stomach drops. "What are you saying?" She shifts uncomfortably. "I shouldn't be telling you this, but I think you should call a lawyer." The room tilts. Power of attorney? That wasn't part of the plan. This was supposed to be temporary. Rehab. A few weeks, maybe a month. Not this. I barely make it back to my room before my legs give out. The photo of Henry mocks me from the nightstand. "You promised you'd look after them." His voice echoes in my head. How did it come to this? And then, just when I think the day can't get worse, the door creaks open. I don't turn around. I can't, because if it's another nurse with another pitying look, I might scream. But then I hear it. A voice I haven't heard in 8 years. "Mom." My breath catches. Slowly, so slowly I turn. And there she is. Rebecca. My daughter. Her hair's shorter now. Dark circles under her eyes, like she hasn't slept in days. And in her hands, a single envelope, crumpled at the edges. She doesn't smile. Doesn't move. Just stands there, staring at me like she's trying to decide whether to run or stay. Then, 2 words. 2 words that split my heart wide open. "I forgive you." But before I can speak, before I can even process what's happening, she adds the one thing I never expected. Now tell me why the hell Daniel lied to us both. The truth in the box. Forgive me? The words tasted bitter on my tongue. For what, Rebecca? What exactly did I do that warrants forgiveness when your brother is the one who… Just stop. She cut me off, her voice sharp as shattered glass. You always do this. Twist things until it's someone else's fault. The envelope in her hands trembled. For a second, I thought she might throw it at me. Instead, she stepped further into the room, her eyes scanning the sterile walls, the generic landscape painting, the half-empty water cup on my nightstand. Her nose wrinkled like the place smelled of disinfectant and defeat. Maybe it did. Daniel told me you didn't want visitors, she said, quieter now. That you said seeing me would make things harder. A laugh clawed its way up my throat, dry and humorless. And you believed him? I didn't. Not at first. She finally met my gaze. But then I found the box. The box. 2 words, and suddenly the room felt smaller. Henry's old wooden keepsake box, the one he'd carved his initials into the summer before he died. The one I'd kept on my dresser for years, then packed away when the memories got too heavy. You went through my things? I went to your house, Mom. Her voice cracked. 3 months ago. When Daniel stopped answering my calls about you. I thought maybe you'd left something behind, a note, a clue, anything to explain why you'd just let him dump you here. She didn't say abandon, but the word hung between us anyway. The envelope crinkled as she gripped it tighter. The box was in the attic, buried under old Christmas decorations. And inside, she swallowed hard. Letters. Dozens of them. All addressed to me. All unopened. I slid down my spine. I knew exactly which letters she meant. The ones I'd written after our fight. The one that started with me criticizing her fiancé and ended with her calling me a controlling hag before vanishing for 8 years. I'd sent them to her old apartment, her office, even her best friend's house. Never a response. You never got them, I whispered. No. Because Daniel intercepted every single one. Her laugh was hollow. He even forged a few replies. Typed them up, signed them with my name. Told you I wanted space. The floor tilted. All those years, all those nights I'd cried myself to sleep thinking my daughter hated me, and it had been him, my golden boy, the one who'd bring me tea and pat my hand and say, "She'll come around, Mom," while secretly stabbing me in the back? Why? The word came out strangled. Rebecca's eyes glistened. Open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a printed email dated 2 years ago. Daniel's name at the top. Rebecca's email address. And one sentence, bolded like a slap. If you ever try to contact Mom again, I'll tell her about the money. What money? My hands shook so badly, the paper rattled. Rebecca sank into the chair beside my bed, suddenly looking every one of her 35 years. After Dad died, he left us each $50,000. Remember? I nodded. Henry's life insurance, meant for emergencies. Daniel blew through his in a year. Bad investments, he said. Then he found out I'd barely touched mine. She dragged a hand through her hair. He asked to borrow it. I said no. So she gestured to the email. He threatened to tell you I'd stolen it. That I was just like Uncle Rick. My breath caught. My brother Rick had drained our parents' savings before vanishing to Vegas. The ultimate family shame. He knew you'd believe him, Rebecca whispered. Because you always did. The truth hit like a punch. All those times I'd taken Daniel's side. All the times I'd dismissed Rebecca as dramatic. The way I'd let him become the gatekeeper of our relationship without even realizing it. A noise escaped me. Something between a sob and a curse. Rebecca reached into her bag and pulled out the box itself, the familiar oak grain making my chest ache. There's more, she said, lifting the lid. Beneath the remaining letters lay a small black notebook. Henry's. Page 47, she said softly. I knew what I'd find before I opened it. Henry's messy scrawl, the same one that had penned grocery lists and love notes for 30 years. But the words weren't about milk or bread or how pretty I looked in yellow. They were a warning. If anything happens to me, watch Daniel. He's been lying about the job in Chicago. I found the loan papers. He's in deep, and I fear what he'll do to dig himself out. Dated 2 weeks before Henry's heart attack. The notebook slipped from my fingers. He knew. Rebecca's hand covered mine, warm and solid for the first time in a decade. We both got played, Mom.
But now, she squeezed.
Now we have a choice. Outside, thunder rumbled. Or maybe it was the blood roaring in my ears. Because standing in that sterile room, surrounded by the wreckage of my family, I realized something terrifying. The son I'd trusted with everything was a stranger, and the daughter I'd pushed away might be the only one left who'd tell me the truth. The fight for family. The rain started just as Rebecca finished speaking, a sudden, violent downpour that rattled the windows of my tiny room. It felt fitting. The sky was as angry as I was. Where is he now? My voice surprised me.
Low. Steady.
Not the trembling mess I felt inside. Rebecca hesitated. Last I heard, still in your house. The air left my lungs. Of course. The house I'd signed over to Daniel temporarily, while I recovered. The house my husband had built with his own hands. He moved in. She nodded, lips pressed tight. Changed the locks 2 weeks after you got here. Told the neighbors you asked him to house sit. A memory flashed. Daniel, just a boy, grinning up at me with grass-stained knees. Look, Mom, I built a fort. Now that same boy had turned my home into his castle, and me into some forgotten peasant. I reached for my walker, the metal cold under my grip. We're going. Rebecca's eyes widened. Mom, you can't just. Watch me. I'd spent 6 months waiting. 6 months rotting in this place while my son picked my life apart like a vulture. No more. The nurses tried to stop us, of course. Mrs. Carter, you haven't been discharged. Your medication? I didn't care. Let them call the police. Better yet, let them call Daniel. Rain lashed at us as Rebecca helped me into her beat-up Honda. The car smelled like coffee and old paper, so different from Daniel's fancy SUV with its leather seats. I stared at the photo taped to her dashboard, Rebecca and a dark-haired man at what looked like a vineyard. No wedding ring. So she'd left that cheating fiancé after all. You never married Jason, I said quietly. Her hands tightened on the wheel.
No.
Turns out you were right about him. A pause. Wish you'd been wrong, though. The admission stung. All those years wasted because I'd been too proud to apologize, and Daniel had been too greedy to let us reconcile. My street looked the same, the Johnsons' pink azaleas, old Mr. Peterson walking his Shih Tzu. But my porch? There was a new swing. A garish red thing that Henry would have hated. Rebecca killed the engine. You sure about this? Before I could answer, the front door flew open. Daniel stood there, phone in hand, face pale. He'd put on weight since I'd last seen him, his polo shirt straining at the buttons. What the hell are you doing here? The walker wobbled as I hauled myself upright. Asking the same thing about you. For a second, no one moved. Then Daniel's expression twisted into something ugly. Rebecca, you meddling bitch. I told you to stay out of this. She flinched, just slightly, but it was enough to make my blood boil. Language. I snapped, the old teacher in me surfacing. And don't you dare speak to your sister that way. Daniel's laugh was harsh. Oh, now she's my sister? After all the shit you've said about her? The words hit like a slap. Because he wasn't wrong. I'd said terrible things, called Rebecca selfish, ungrateful. All while he'd been the real snake in the grass. Rebecca stepped forward. We found Dad's journal. Something flickered in Daniel's eyes. Fear. You had no right. We had every right. My voice cracked like thunder. You stole from us. Lied to us. Left me in that place to die alone. The neighbor's curtains twitched. Daniel's jaw worked. You weren't supposed to find out, he muttered, almost to himself. Then movement behind him. A woman appeared in the doorway, blonde and pregnant, one hand resting protectively on her belly. Dan? Everything okay? The world tilted. Pregnant. My son had a wife. A baby on the way. And he'd never even told me. Rebecca made a small, wounded noise beside me. She hadn't known either. Daniel's shoulders slumped. Look, just come inside. We'll talk. But I'd spent enough time in rooms where people lied to me. No. I reached into my purse and pulled out the one thing I'd grabbed from Maplewood besides my pills, the framed family photo. You want to talk? Start by explaining this. I hurled it at his feet. Glass shattered. Our smiling faces splintered into fragments. The blonde woman gasped. Dan, what's... Melissa, go inside, Daniel barked. But she didn't. She stepped forward, eyes wide. You said your mother didn't want to be involved. That she had problems. Her gaze flicked to my walker, my shaking hands. Rebecca snorted. Yeah, the problem is standing right in front of you. Daniel's face darkened. Get off my property before I call the cops. Your property? I choked out. Last I checked, my name's still on the deed.
A lie.
I knew it the second his mouth curled into a smirk. Actually, Mom, it's not. He pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped the screen, and held it up. A scanned document. My signature. My name. A notary stamp dated 3 days after I'd arrived at Maplewood. A complete forgery. Rebecca grabbed my arm as my knees buckled. You bastard, she whispered. Daniel pocketed the phone. Like you said, I'm the problem. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Now get the hell off my lawn. The rain soaked through my cardigan as we turned away. But colder than the water was the realization settling in my bones. The sun I'd raised was gone. And the fight to get my life back had only just begun. The last letter. The car ride back to Maplewood was silent except for the rhythmic swish of windshield wipers. Rebecca's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. He's been planning this for years, I finally said. The words tasted like ash. Rebecca exhaled sharply. That woman, she looked 6 months pregnant. Which means... He proposed while I was still packing my things. The timeline was grotesque. My son had been picking out rings and nursery colors as he dropped me off at what I thought was temporary rehab. Rain blurred the streetlights into glowing streaks. I studied my daughter's profile, the stubborn set of her jaw so like Henry's. Why did you come today? Her fingers flexed on the wheel. Because when I read your letters, the real ones, I realized something. A pause. You're just as much his victim as I am. The admission hung between us, fragile as the spiderwebs clinging to Maplewood's eaves when we pulled in. The night nurse gasped as we dripped across the lobby. Mrs. Carter, we were about to call. Save it. I didn't stop rolling my walker toward my room. Rebecca helped me into dry clothes, her movements brisk but gentle. When she unfolded Henry's old flannel shirt from her bag, my breath caught. You kept this. Stole it from your laundry years ago. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Smelled like Dad. The fabric was threadbare but soft. I hugged it close, inhaling the faintest trace of Henry's pipe tobacco. Then I noticed Rebecca pulling something else from her bag, the black notebook. We missed a page, she said quietly. At the very back, tucked behind the final entry, was a sealed envelope none of us had noticed earlier. My name in Henry's handwriting. The paper tore in my haste. A single sheet slid out, dated the night before his heart attack. My Evelyn, if you're reading this, I'm gone and Daniel's done something reckless. Don't let guilt blind you. The boy we raised died the first time he stole from us. What's left will only hurt you more. Rebecca's stronger than both of us. Let her help. And my love, when the time comes, be the storm, not the shelter. Always, Henry. A sob tore through me. He'd known. Known his own son would break me. Known I need permission to fight back. Rebecca's arms came around me, her cheek pressed to my damp hair. We stayed like that until dawn light crept through the blinds. Then I reached for the phone. The lawyer's office smelled like lemon polish and ambition. Susan Whitaker was all sharp edges and sharper suits, her glasses glinting as she scanned the forged deed. We'll file criminal charges for the fraud. Civil suit for emotional distress. And she tapped Henry's journal. This proves premeditation. Rebecca squeezed my hand. He'll lose everything.
Good, I said.
The word should have tasted bitter. It didn't. The storm came on a Tuesday. Daniel arrived at Maplewood red-faced and raging, Melissa trailing behind with swollen eyes. "You can't do this," he bellowed, slamming the eviction notice onto my breakfast tray. I sipped my terrible coffee. Already did. His wife burst into tears. "We have nowhere to go." For a heartbeat, I wavered. That unborn baby was still my blood. Then Rebecca placed Henry's notebook in my lap, open to his final words. "Be the storm." I looked my son in the eye for the last time. "You should have thought of that before you stole from your family." Epilogue. The sale of Henry's house paid for a cozy cottage where Rebecca's vinyl collection spills across my living room floor. Some Sundays, I catch her tracing his initials on the keepsake box. Daniel's trial starts next month. Sometimes I picture him, pacing some tiny apartment, staring at the walls, finally understanding what it feels like to be trapped. But mostly I sit on my new porch swing, blue, not red, and reread Henry's last letter. The ink's fading now. Doesn't matter. I know it by heart. If this story made you hold your loved ones a little tighter tonight, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when the storm hits. Subscribe for more real-life stories of courage and second chances.